Section 4. Getting ready for service.
Before starting to taste a particular wine, you first need to know how to serve it. This section provides basic information to choose the most appropriate glass for each type of wine.
Decanting.
Wine is an extremely delicate product. It is very exposed to the oxidation and volatility of the acids that compose it. For wines aged in oak barrels for a long time and also remained in the bottle for a long time, it is necessary to facilitate the oxidative phase to free up more rapidly the acids formed during the period of maturation. This technique is called decanting. To decant a wine, it should be gently poured into a glass jug with a very wide base called a decanter to allow the maximum contact with oxygen. This practice allows a more rapid oxidation with consequent release of volatile substances that will expand the bouquet of fragrances, release tannins, and increase the feeling of softness in mouth. Unfortunately, the decanting practice is often snubbed and considered a mere theatrical practice. Actually, ignoring the decanting when it is needed will not allow you to appreciate the quality of a wine that requires this procedure. Decanting is critical in the case of wines with a considerable harmless sediment. An alternative way to oxidate the wine is an early opening of the bottle, but it is often not possible, especially in a restaurant. But however, it may not be enough to release the volatile substances that makes the wine closed, since only a little portion of wine near the thin part of the bottle will be oxidized.
Choosing the glass.
As already mentioned, even the glass should be chosen according to the main characteristics of the wine you have decided to drink. Apart from the traditions or the beautiful glasses often created by famous designers, for each type of wine a specific glass should be used.
Sparkling wine glass.
No matter if sweet or dry, sparkling wines should always be consumed in a flute glass, and it must be long and as slim as possible. This is to allow the continuous monitoring of the evolution of perlage inside of the glass and to maintain all the scents, which are usually extremely delicate. To mention an amazing case, the glass better known as champagne cup is absolutely not suitable due to the wide open surface of the brim, a real waste of the volatile substances with the inability to even notice the perlage because of a too short course of the bubbles.
Glass for fresh white and rosé wines.
Fresh white wines, as well as fresh rosé wines, require a sleek glass but not too large and tulip-shaped, which tends to close a bit on the brim. That is to direct the wine to the tip of the tongue, where you feel better the sweet sensation, and at the end of it, where you feel better the acidity that greatly increases salivation. This type of glass has recently become the most common standard used for all the wine tastings.
Glass for red wines and full-bodied whites.
The structured white wines, as well as the fresh reds, require a tulip-shaped glass similar to the previously mentioned one, but considerably larger. It should also close on the brim to direct the wine to the central part of the tongue, where the tactile sensation of softness is mainly perceived, and then consequently drops it on the sides to stimulate watering in the mouth. The amplitude of the cup greatly helps the perception of the most complex scents.
Glass for full-bodied red wines.
Red wines with a particular structure, which have also been aged, require a very wide-brimmed glass that allows a prolonged contact with oxygen. There are two famous types of glasses for aged red wines. The Bordeaux glass, perfect to accommodate structural long-aged and round wines. For more delicate and acidic long-aged wines, it's preferable to use a Bourgogne glass, which is wider, even more rounded but shorter than the previous one. Both types of glass can help the oxidation of the wine poured inside.
Glass for dessert wines.
The most suitable glass for dessert wines is rounded and quite small. The first reason is that it hosts a low amount of wine. Another one is that the density of this particular kind of wine does tend to keep the liquid clinging to the glass with a very slow descent. The shape of this glass tends to direct the wine towards the far side of the tongue, where you feel the most bitter taste, not to perceive it too sweet at the very first sip.
Glass for fortified wines.
Also known as port or sherry glasses, the fortified wines require a glass similar to the previous one but less slender and slightly wider. Its shape helps a more detailed search of the scents during the olfactory analysis, as well as facilitating the evaporation of the spirits present within these wines.
Temperatures.
The compliance of the service temperature is critical to correctly perceive every nuance of the wine that you are about to taste. A too low temperature would not even allow you to perceive the most typical hints of a wine, and a too high temperature would force the alcohol to overlap all the most delicate hints. It is important to keep in mind that in summer, especially in warm countries, it is very difficult to taste red wines because when the ambient temperature exceeds the ideal temperature of a specific wine, the perception of its features becomes extremely difficult, imprecise, and not very pleasant. For a proper monitoring of the temperature, there are specific analog and digital thermometers which are very cheap but very effective. The following list is quite general but surely helpful. Serving temperatures: from 4 to 6 Celsius, sparkling wines; from 6 to 8 Celsius, white and rosé wines; from 8 to 10 Celsius, white and rosé structured wines; from 10 to 14 Celsius, aged white wines, fresh reds and nouveau; from 14 to 18 Celsius, sparkling red wines and fresh reds; from 18 to 22 Celsius, aged red wines; from 8 to 18 Celsius, dessert wines; from 12 to 18 Celsius, fortified wines.
How to hold a wine glass.
It's very important for a taster to learn how to properly hold the wine glass, not only to express his professionalism, but it is especially useful for some certain reasons in order to experience a successful tasting. For right-handers, the glass should be lifted by the stem with your left hand. It must be placed on the middle finger of the right hand and then firmly grabbed with the thumb and the index finger. In detail, the middle finger holds up the base of the glass, while the thumb and the index finger hold it by the lower part of the stem. This specific grip is the only ideal one to enable the swilling of the wine within the glass by moving only the wrist, in order to avoid the risk of an accidental wine leakage. Another reason to use this grip is that it allows you to easily incline the glass to monitor the color and the refraction of the wine. Another even more important reason is that the wine should be kept as far as possible from the skin, which normally carries smells such as perfume, the skin smell itself, the smell of sweat, or the one of something that we previously touched.
How to open a bottle.
To properly serve a bottle of wine, just follow some simple basic rules. First of all, show the bottle to the person who requested it. Read the label for them, including the name of the wine, the name of the winery, and the year of the harvest if it is reported. Read the disgorgement year for sparkling wines. In order to open the bottle, place it on the table with the label always facing the person who made the request. If the top of the bottle is not provided with a tab, you should use a corkscrew with a little knife to proceed with the removal. Once you have removed the top, you can start to remove the cork. It is very important to avoid making noise while opening the bottle, even if the removal requires a particular energy, because it would be an extremely rude act. If the cork is made of real cork, it is essential to use your sense of smell to analyze the part of it that was in contact with the wine, in order to check for a possible defect. If smelling the cork you perceive a scent of wine or no smell at all, it means that the wine is free from flows transmitted by the cork. If you perceive an unpleasant smell instead, it is clear warning that the wine must be flowed. In the majority of cases, the wine is contaminated by Armillaria mellea, a microscopic fungus that might quickly attack the wine a few minutes after bottling. Unfortunately, there is still no way to prevent this fungus attack, as it is impossible to detect it before bottling the wine. In this case, it is suggested to have a quick sip of wine to verify the flow. If this does happen, you should not be afraid to reclose the bottle with the original cork and return it to the shop and to ask for a replacement, whether it be a wine shop or a supermarket, as the wine you have purchased has been paid for as a flawless product. That's because the choices of the seller or the market or the production and bottling disciplines must not penalize the consumer. To open a bottle of sparkling wine instead, you should follow the same steps already mentioned until the removal of the top. At this point, you should release the wire cage, making sure that the cork is firm, otherwise the gas inside the bottle might push it open, spraying yourself and the people who are nearby. You can help yourself placing a napkin on the top. Once you have released the cage, holding it with the left hand and always being careful about the cork, with the other hand you grab the bottle firmly by the lower part of it, then you should start to slightly turn it back and forth. While turning the bottle, it is crucial to always press the cap down until the moment it will be completely released, to cushion the blow and also to avoid to make noises. Following these simple rules, in addition to opening the sparkling wine in an elegant way, it avoids unpleasant splashing and any wine loss. If the cork is made of real cork, you should just follow the previously mentioned steps to check for any flow which might have been transmitted to the wine.